Lilli, welcome back. You've
Good
been
to
here
be
before. Okay, so let's jump in. I'm going to ask you a question that is either going to be super easy to answer or very difficult. So before we get into sort of like what I normally ask, what's a fractional CMO?
So, a fractional CMO is like a detective. We come in and we look for opportunities, but we also look for roadblocks, right?
Mhm.
Um, we look at your team and their capacity, and sometimes you have too much and sometimes you have too little. We look at your processes and we look at, what are your goals? Oftentimes, we're helping to shape what those goals are. So, ideally, a fractional CMO is somebody who is coming in with a level of expertise that can help you sort of shine a light on things that you weren't seeing before.
Good answer. So it turns out to be easy to answer, I mean, not to do. Okay, so you started a 1-year hypothetical engagement. Today's day one. You're the fractional CMO who's just been brought on. What are you going to do in the first 90 days? What's like the top one or two or three things you're going to look for or tackle?
Mhm. So, the first 90 days is all about strategy. It's, again, auditing existing marketing plans. It's looking for insights that's the reason you're hired, right? And so, diving into that specific industry, sometimes with fresh eyes, which can be a real asset to companies. You'll find things like whether they're using jargon, or whether they're making assumptions about their product or about their end user that somebody with fresh eyes can really see aren't translating. And so, again, having somebody who is either fresh to your business or fresh to your industry can be a real asset.
Yeah.
In the first 90 days, they're also, for me specifically, I'm really looking at messaging strategy.
Right.
So I help you create your core messaging and reiterate it over and over again across mediums. But in order for me to do that well, I need to understand your audience. So ideally, I'm sitting down with people within your organization who know them the best, but also sitting down externally with your customers to really validate some of those assumptions that might have been made early on.
Okay. And for anyone who didn't see the earlier episode in season one, I think that you were on, and we're now in season three, let everyone know a little bit about you.
Sure. So I'm the founder of Anticipate Growth Strategies. I am a fractional CMO and a growth strategist.
Mhm.
And I've been doing this work for over 10 years, and then more specifically under the title of fractional CMO for the last couple of years. I started my company because I really found that consultants, there was a sort of a trend that I didn't like in the industry where consultants would come in and put together strategy decks and insight briefs and
Yeah.
creative briefs, and then it would just live in somebody's email somewhere, right? So my company is really big on either coaching you through the process on an ongoing basis to make sure that we can execute your strategy, or just having my team of contractors help you to execute it so we can kind of act as an in-house agency.
Okay. Now let's switch away from the fractional CMO for a second. I'm the CEO of the company that's brought in a fractional CMO. Okay. I got approval in the budget, put aside enough money to pay them for a year. Um, how do I get every last cent of value out of that fractional CMO? Or how am I likely to waste that money if I don't know what I'm doing? Your call.
It's a great question. So first off, I think mutual respect goes a long way in bringing the best out of people in almost any circumstance. It's why one of my company values is around assuming the best or assuming good intentions. So an engagement that is seen purely as a financial exchange, as in creating, strategy or coming in at for hire, I think sort of sets the wrong tone out the gate. So I think it's helpful to, I think that sort of sets like an adversarial relationship out the gate because um, I enjoy working with CEOs who see hiring a fractional CMO or really any consultant as an investment in their growth, right? So I think when the relationship is set up as a team with a similar common goal, that sort of just sets the tone properly out the gate. And it's helpful to work with leaders who understand enough about marketing so that they can be strategic thought partners and give you good feedback, but also understand that it's an art and a science, and really respect the expertise of the person that they're bringing in. So I bring all this up because I think, relationship is really important to the success of any project. And also, mindset is really important in terms of setting aside the resources and being willing to invest in getting strategy foundations set properly from the jump
Right.
of a project. I also think that marketing can sometimes be treated as like a lesser in the C-suite, a lesser discipline, and so
Never happened.
and the reality is that marketing touches every aspect of a business, right? So what's your employer brand? Meaning, how do you talk to potential new hires? That's the HR overlap. I think the sales and marketing overlap is more obvious, although a huge amount of companies still don't have their sales and marketing teams talking to one another, which is a huge pet peeve of mine. And then, there's obvious overlap with things like technology, right? I use technology all the time to make marketing operations more efficient. So I need to be in conversations regularly with a CTO. I can work with finance to help forecast. And, in my opinion, operations and marketing should be best friends because of the implications of growth and service delivery. And so my other sort of recommendation to leaders and CEOs is integrate your marketing, your fractional CMO and your marketing function, and really have transparency across all levels of your C-suite team. But then also just create that transparency across the organization. I can't make recommendations unless I really see what's going on financially, and I really see what's, the good, the bad, and everything in between. For instance, I want to know, has there been negative company reviews? That's a huge part of reputation management and marketing, et cetera. So in short, I think CEOs get the most when they really develop a relationship of respecting the expertise of the individual that they've brought in, and are really willing to invest in proper strategy development up front.
I have a question. Okay, so this is a hypothetical 1-year engagement. So let's pretend we're out at the end of the 12th month. Okay, there's a marketing team already in place at the company. Doesn't have to be big, but junior, mid-level folks, fractional CMOs brought in for leadership. 12 months have gone by. What are the two biggest ways, likeliest ways that the marketing team, like the team, the department, not individuals in it or the company, but the team, what are two ways that they're improved or better off even at the end of the 12 months of having that fractional CMO than where they started a year earlier? What are those two biggest ways, you think?
Yeah. So, one goes back to this idea of being a detective.
Mm-hmm.
Ideally you've identified major roadblocks or opportunities for growth. So you've unlocked an insight that wouldn't have existed before. And then it's one thing to unlock an insight, but unless you're really activating it, it doesn't mean anything. So you've unlocked the insight, and now you've created some strategy and some tactics around how that actually impacts the company. After 1 year, you should have already, implemented steps to be able to see growth in that area, and you should already be able to track what that looks like. So one of the main things a fractional CMO does is they provide the roadmap. So
Okay. That's number one.
Number one, the roadmap is there. And then I'd say that number two, one of the biggest things that they can offer a marketing team that's in place is efficiency in terms of project management. So I think the industry might be calling it random acts of marketing is the new term that I'm hearing. You think you have to do SEO and blogs and social media and podcasts, webinars, etc. So a lot of times a more junior marketer and then a marketing team without strategic leadership is running around just doing tactic execution. They're just executing on marketing tactics that they think they should be doing. So once that roadmap is in place, then you really can, I think a good leader hopefully has some leadership training, and can play to the strengths of their specific team.
Right.
So when you do that, what I have found is that you create a lot of efficiency, meaning things
Operational efficiency. Yeah.
operational efficiency, and things happen quicker, right?
Right.
So when you have goals and they're very clear, and you have a roadmap, and you have someone sort of acting as project manager in chief, and creating some pressure and some deadlines, but also playing to people's strengths, you see amazing things and amazing results happen quickly. And the beauty of digital marketing is you can track all of this, right?
Yeah.
So, and not just digital marketing, you can track data through digital marketing, but you can also track things like consumer sentiment. Are they, let's say you do a messaging strategy portion of work and you come up with some core messages, are you seeing those messages reflected back to you in things like reviews? So when your customers start using your language, that's one way to measure that you're having.
Well, I mean, in most marketing teams, most or all of the people, especially in smaller companies, most or all of the people involved in digital marketing are like on the more junior side, right? So let's talk about a junior employee. Let's imagine that I'm the most junior person in marketing at this company, right? I'm like 25. And it's my first full-time marketing job. All right. And the company's just brought in a fractional CMO.
Mhm.
If you were talking to that super junior person, you say, like, you know what, I'm going to be here a year. I'm not going to, it's up to you what you want to do with this opportunity. But if I was you and someone like me was going to be here for a year, here's what I would ask that person. Here's what I would try to learn from that person. Here's what I would avoid. Like, what's like the core piece of advice that you would give that lowest on the totem pole junior employee about trying to make the most of this 1 year they're going to have with a fractional CMO in the mix?
Yeah, great question. So again, we've got this industry trend around random acts of marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes you have either a junior marketer with one specific discipline and they're sort of siloed into, let's say, email marketing.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Or more often, you have them wearing all the marketing hats, delivering tactics with no strategy.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say, and this was true for me early in my career, I worked with strategists and I got to learn big picture thinking. So one thing that I would recommend junior marketers do is take advantage of the opportunity to learn strategy development and really see the big picture and how that gets executed in smaller chunks. Um, so I think that's really helpful insight. And then I would also say build a mentor mentee type relationship because, you know, again, if you're having to wear all of the marketing hats
Yeah,
and
exactly.
maybe you're putting together spreadsheets, around social media KPIs, but you're a brilliant copywriter or an excellent designer, um, your fractional CMO should, again, if they have some leadership training, should be able to identify your strengths and help you play to those, right? So even understanding what a career in design looks like or a career in copywriting looks like so that you're not just the person who is executing every discipline. So I would say using this as an opportunity to think about some specialization.
Okay. Now, I'm not trying to make you mad with this next question. This is our last question before we wrap up. But I mean, there are less frustrating and easier ways to make a living than being a fractional CMO, right? I mean, you could get nestled into a marketing group at a college somewhere and spend the next 25 years making brochures, right? Like, why do this job?
I'm a strategist at heart. I love strategy development and I love problem solving. I like coming in and solving complex problems. And again, I think that one of the biggest advantages that fractional talent has is fresh eyes. After 6 months, after a year, even after 2 years, sometimes I'm so close to the project that I've lost that ability to see with fresh eyes.
Right.
And so I enjoy coming in on shorter term contracts to help bring insight to your organization. I'm very much a human centered design fan. If people don't know what that is, it's out of IDEO and just that creative process, right, of observation and defining goals and and execution and then reiteration and just kind of going through that process to make companies better is exciting.
All right. And that's why it's fun.
And that's why it's fun.
Okay, fair enough. Who should get in touch with you these days, and how should they do it?
Yeah. So I work with growth stage companies who either don't have a marketing department or they have one, but they want to get more strategic and scientific about their marketing approach. I work with a lot of mission driven companies. I also work with B2B companies, technology companies, and wellness brands. So if that is any of the people listening to this and you're intrigued by taking a more strategic approach, you can reach out to me through my website, anticipategrowthstrategies.com.
All right. All right. Awesome. Thank you, Lilli. It's great to see you
Absolutely.
again. Maybe you'll be back in season 5.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Thanks, everyone.